I've kind of been in and around the system and disadvantage and the families affected by it for a long time, but I can safely say after 3 years, almost 3 years as Commissioner, until I got as close as I am now, I had no idea. I had no idea about how limited our system's capacity is to step in and provide the support and intervention that's needed. We saw some of these issues exemplified in an inquiry that we conducted last year into cumulative harm, which is a child protection term, and suicide. We looked at 26 cases where children and young people committed suicide and had had child protection involvement in the lead up to their death. The patterns that we saw were stark. All of the children had lived from infanthood with a combination of family violence, often very severe family violence, parental substance abuse and or parental mental illness, in some instances with suspected sexual abuse and often with significant neglect. All had been subject to multiple reports to child protection, 29 in one child's case, but the average was 7. But had at no stage, at the point of no report, had been assessed at being at enough risk of harm to warrant child protection statutory intervention. The consequence for the children is that at the first report to child protection and the second and the third and indeed the 29th, nothing changed for these children. We look at a sample of cases where children had died after exposure to family violence, and again I could talk at length about what we found there. But when we did that work, we also noted that almost half of the children in that sample, children who'd experienced family violence and who had subsequently died, not always as a direct result of the violence, in almost half of those cases, particularly those cases where the child who died was a girl, there'd also been a disclosure or a suspicion of child sexual abuse, despite the remarkable focus, and again long overdue, and very, very positive focus on family violence that we've had in this state in recent years. The correlation between family violence and child sexual abuse has really had almost no attention. Research tells us that girls who've experienced sexual abuse are between 20 and 70 times more likely to attempt suicide, 2 to 5 times more likely to experience anxiety or depression, and 5 to 16 times more likely to be admitted into a psychiatric hospital for treatment. So what do we need to do better? Clearly, there are many, many changes needed. I'll only hit a few points. We need to shift investment to early intervention. We need to bring a gendered lens to all interventions. Family violence is a major driver of reports to child protection and everything that flows. And we have to look at every aspect of what's happening in a family with an understanding about how gender dynamics impact risk. We need to address child sexual abuse in the home. We need to advocate for more research into issues affecting girls and young women, particularly those who are vulnerable in a whole raft of ways. So for International Women's Day this year, let's pause to acknowledge the girls and the women who've lost their childhoods to abuse and harm. Indeed, those, some of whom we look at closely, who've lost their lives. And let's pay tribute to the girls and young women who survive the unimaginable and come out the other end. I have to say, I can't tell you how many girls and young women I get to meet in my job, whose humour, whose strength, whose resilience and whose insights make me marvel and make me laugh and inspire me and frankly help get me out of bed in the morning to keep fighting for change. Let's commit to using all of the measures at our disposal to promote girls' rights and young women's rights, to improve our understanding about what they need and what they deserve, and improve our sense of how we can keep them safe and empowered, because let me tell you, we have, between us all, a lot of work to do. Thank you.